Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to go through the process of putting together a roughly $300, give or take, computer that is going to feature a tempered side glass case. It's going to feature 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. It's actually even going to be ECC. It's going to feature a 6-core 12-thread processor and nothing worse than an RX 480 4GB graphics card, as well as some solid-state storage and a mass hard drive. This system is, in all honesty, it's probably one of the best systems you can build for about $300 without really digging deep into the local used market. So let's go ahead, hop over to the internet here, and we are going to be using AliExpress quite extensively, so you will have to wait a while on ship times. But let's dive into the internet and figure out just how to get this done. So if you've watched most of my recent videos, you know that we're probably going to be featuring the 1356 socket. That's an Ivy Bridge server socket. It features Xeon processors where you can get quad cores, you can get 6 cores, and you can get 8 cores on it. I'm not sure that it goes any higher than 8 cores and 16 threads, but we're going to be looking at the 6-core and 12-thread processors for this particular socket because you can get them at less than $20 right now, pretty readily available on AliExpress. But hopping over to AliExpress here, we are looking at the 1356 motherboards. And there are two basic designs here that you can get with these motherboards. Either you can get this more traditional design where the 24-pin ATX connector, the power connector, is on the right side just like pretty much every other motherboard. Or you can get this other motherboard here where that connector is over to the left side of the motherboard, which I don't really like because it makes cable management a little bit more difficult. But in addition, it looks like this more traditional layout also has a more robust power delivery than this sort of alternative layout. So I would spend the extra money because the price difference here is less than $10 right now. So I would spend the money on getting this 1356 motherboard, this socket 1356, with the traditional layout with the 24-pin power connector on the right side and looks like a more robust VRM. That's what I would go with. It's only $54.64, at least this particular listing of this motherboard. There are several listings, so make sure that you take into account with AliExpress, always look at the shipping costs, because shipping costs are where you can get into trouble on AliExpress, especially if you're in the United States or somewhere far away from China, which is where most of this stuff is going to be shipping from. Now with the motherboard out of the way, we're going to look at the processor that I'm going to recommend for this build because I think that this is the one that gives you the best price to performance ratio here, and that's the E5-2420 V2. It features 6 cores, 12 threads. It's going to give you a base clock of 2.2 gigahertz. It's going to boost up a little bit higher than that under load as long as it's staying cool. But regardless, this is going to give us a lot of cores and threads to work with. A lot of modern games that are starting to really take advantage of those lots of cores and lots of threads are actually going to help extend the lifespan of this processor. And in my testing with the 8-core E5-2450 V2, I saw that performance was really solid with a, I believe I was using a GTX 1060. I'll try to remember to link a card there for that video, which I did some light games testing. I didn't test a ton of games with it, but I was seeing great performance. Others that have tested this CPU have also seen pretty solid performance out of it. So this is going to be the processor I recommend. Again, free shipping and $17.80 on the cost. Great value there. Now for your memory, you could probably shop around a little bit more for ECC registered memory because the great thing about this platform is it does support that registered memory. So over here I have pulled up on AliExpress an 8GB stick rated at 1600 megahertz. I would get 2 of these. So $18.11 with free shipping, multiply that out by 2, and you're looking at spending a little bit like $36 on RAM, which I've seen these go for cheaper. In fact, I have a couple in the mail right now that I got when they were more like $14 per 8GB stick. So I would definitely shop around eBay, AliExpress, look at different listings, that sort of thing, but try to locate yourself about 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM because keep in mind that we only have 2 DIMM slots on these motherboards to work with, so you're definitely going to want to get at least one 8GB stick to start with, and then if you want to upgrade later on to 16 gigabytes, you could go that route. I'm just going to start out with the 16 gigabytes of DDR3 because that's my end goal anyways, and DDR3 ECC is quite cheap. Again, eBay, you may actually be able to find this a little bit cheaper there. It all depends on the market or where you live, so just shop around for RAM. It really doesn't matter what kind of RAM you're getting, so long as you're getting a good capacity and a good price on it. Now, the last thing that we need to kind of go with the motherboard is an actual CPU cooler, because these processors will not come with their own CPU cooler. Now, what you're going to want to look for, whether you're going with AliExpress or a different marketplace altogether, is compatibility for LGA 1366, because the mounting holes for 1366, as far as I can tell, are the exact same as 1356, and you'll be hard pressed to find coolers for 1356 because it was such a niche server socket. So it's much easier to look for compatibility with 1366. AliExpress has a ton of really cheap options, and the nice thing about this server chip is it's not gonna run hot. It's not a hot chip. Even under full load, those 6 cores and 12 threads are not running at high enough voltages, high enough clock speeds to really push any kind of serious thermal load. So I have not tested the cooler that I have in the mail, which is more of a tower style, but I did find this particular tower cooler. It looks like it features a couple of copper heat pipes, looks like they're direct contact. It typically comes in a couple of color options, though only blue is available right now. It's $8.71. If you're uncomfortable with a really light cooler like this, because maybe the case that you pick later on doesn't have great airflow, or you just don't want to try a really cheap cooler that you've never had any experience with, obviously feel free to spend a little bit more to get a cooler that's a little bit beefier, maybe a little bit more trustworthy, but no hotter than this chip is going to run. I think these coolers would be just fine, though the disclaimer here is obviously I have not tested these coolers because I've never ordered one. So order at your own risk, possibly look for something with more than 2 copper heat pipes, but I would feel comfortable at least trying it out. At the end of the day, it's $10, actually less than $10. So we're going to add that $8.71 to our budget here, or at least to the platform cost. And for the motherboard, CPU, RAM, and cooler, we're up to $117.37. That's getting us 16 gigabytes of RAM and 6 cores and 12 threads on our CPU. Now we're ready to start putting in the sort of other components that don't have as much glam, outside the graphics card, of course, which we're going to come to last. So I'm just going to run through. We're done with AliExpress, though. All this stuff will probably be to your house if you live in the United States in about a month's time, so it does require a little bit of patience. Let's hop over to Newegg now and maybe Amazon and try to find ourselves a power supply, a case, and some storage. So for our case, and this is actually one I'm getting ready to use in almost this exact build, the cooler's a little bit different, so I am going to be able to actually test this build once all the parts are in, but I actually like this case a lot for one main reason, actually 2 main reasons. First of all, it has some mesh on the front grill there, so you're going to get decent airflow through the front. You can always add a fan. It looks like it only comes with the rear fan anyways, but you can always add a cheap fan there in the front to really get some air going through it if you really need that extra cooling capacity. But also it comes with an actual tempered side glass panel, and all for $30 plus $7 in shipping. So in my view, this is one of the cheapest tempered side glass cases that you can actually get right now. So I think it's a really good option. It has a really simple aesthetic, which I really like in these cases, and it's gonna show off your components in a reasonable way. So I would add this to your cart as your case. Now, power supplies can get a little bit tricky because typically you're trying to get something that's cheap, yet still gonna be efficient, still gonna be a solid build. So you wanna go with a brand that you trust. Now, I really like the Amazon warehouse deals for these. And I have up here an EVGA unit that's currently available for $27.89, which is a decent offer. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and price out a brand new unit that I have used before, I've had excellent success with, and that's this Gigabyte 400 watt unit that's 80 plus certified. This is really one of those components that you can get a little bit cheaper, especially on the used market, but try to find something that you definitely trust for years to come. I budget out at least $35 if you're gonna go with a brand new unit. Sometimes you can get lucky and find them for a little bit cheaper, and sometimes you can actually find them really cheap. I found this exact same Gigabyte unit on an Amazon warehouse deal a little while back for just $20, but it was a refurbished unit. So go with something you trust, budget out about $35. This one's gonna cost us more like $36, and that's just fine for our build. We're probably at this point looking like, with the current market, gonna come in a little bit above the $300 price, but that's just fine. And now we're on to storage here, and I'm gonna go with this Sunbow SSD. It's nothing special. It's a 120 gigabyte SSD, but it will give you a really nice and snappy desktop experience. You can install your operating system and some of the core applications that you use all the time, you know, your web browser, maybe office applications, that sort of thing. And it may even have enough room for a couple of games, 1 or 2 games, depending on their size. but it'll give you a nice solid and snappy operating system out of the box, just $18. Now for a hard drive, I'm actually going to save a little bit of money here by only getting a 500 gigabyte hard drive instead of the 1 terabyte drive that I really like to go with. And the major reason for that is per gigabyte cost is not much cheaper by getting 1 terabyte over a 500 gig hard drive, and it saves us that money up front. I can always add another hard drive or another SSD later on down the road. They're not all that expensive, and my case will allot me that. So right now I'm going to choose to save the money. This is something you can always change with your own build, and you can always add to later. So far now we have the motherboard, CPU, RAM, we have the CPU cooler, we have the case, power supply, we have storage now. The last thing up here should be the actual GPU, and this is sort of the brains of the gaming operation here. Without the GPU, this system is completely worthless for gaming. So let's go ahead and hop it over to eBay now and see just what kind of GPU we can find for this thing. Now, of course, the used market is gonna sort of change pretty quickly. So the GPUs you're seeing here probably either aren't available anymore or may have been replaced by different ones by different sellers, that sort of thing. eBay is a very fast moving ecosystem, and I've had great luck recently of getting RX 480s for a really nice cost. I had a Sapphire one that I just tested out, and it was, you know, it's a 4 gigabyte card, custom cooler that Sapphire put on, a 2-fan design, so the card stays really cool, really quiet, and I got the thing for $80, and I actually just got a reference design the other day for $70, which I'll have to clean up. It looks like it has some scuffs on it and it looks pretty dusty, so I have to clean it up. Now, there is some risk with buying a used graphics card. It certainly is likely at this point that some of these cards have been used for mining, so buyer beware there. If you really don't like that idea, then you're going to be spending a little bit more money on a brand new card that may not get the performance of something like an RX 480. Also understand the RX 580s, while a little bit more expensive, also get you a little bit more performance. So again, tailor make this list sort of to your own needs, but I really like the price to performance right now of the RX 480s, and it looks like you can readily get them for about $90. There are several listings here for right at that $90 point, and there are several different designs. You have a couple of dual fan designs. It looks like you have a single fan design, and even further down you have more of these. So it looks like right at that $90 price point is where you can get them readily available. So we're gonna just pretend for a minute that you are buying these. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and pick one. I would go with this Gigabyte one, seems just fine for me, and it's exactly $89. So we're gonna add $89 to our price, and our grand total for this system is $323.01. Now, obviously, this is also before any taxes that apply with Newegg or Amazon, as you're likely, if you're in the United States, to be taxed for those items. So keep that in mind. But this does include the shipping costs from places like Newegg, which I would have saved some money because I do have the Newegg Premier program or whatever. So I would have saved a little bit of money in shipping, but I was assuming that you did not have that program. This is everything. This is 16 gigabytes of DDR3. This is a 6-core 12-thread processor, which, although older architecture, is still a very capable gaming chip in 2019. And this is an RX 480 4 gigabyte card, which is going to drive pretty much any modern game at 1080p. Now, with the highest demanding games, you may have to kick down the settings a little bit to hit that 60 FPS point. But with most of your games, like your Overwatches or other esports games, Apex Legends or Fortnite, you're likely going to be able to max out settings and still be well above 60 FPS in those games with this system as it sits. So this is a fantastic way to get into PC gaming on the cheap and still get great performance, even though it does require a little bit of patience as you wait for those AliExpress items to come in. And it does require you to use at least one used part here. Actually, a couple used parts, because let's face it, those CPUs haven't been just sitting brand new on a shelf for all these years. They've been used too. So you do have to utilize the used market a little bit, but at least these are readily available deals. These aren't like special local deals that you have to really sort for and look out for and just get lucky with. This is something that I could have put together today and actually purchased. And I purchased this exact system or something extremely similar to it using a little bit cheaper of a power supply. I got my graphics card for a little bit cheaper, and my system came in at something like $295 for this exact build. So the price will vary a little bit, and I am going to test all that out and do a build guide when all those parts do come in. So I'm very excited about that. But I do want to hear from you guys. What do you think about this build? Is this something that interests you? I'll also leave links to a lot of this stuff, including the AliExpress stuff, which I don't get any kickbacks for that or anything. but I'll leave all those relevant links down below as well in case you're interested in putting together something very similar to this build. So leave your comments down there, check out the build links down below as well. All that may be very helpful to you. And if you like this video, give it a like, share, subscribe, and comment. All those things are very helpful to the channel. You can follow me on both Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos around me from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.